Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back again to Mr. Mahmoud Helmi channel. Today, inshallah, we will have and discuss chapter 13 from Charles Dickens' story, A Tale of Two Cities for grade 9. The title of the chapter, Dr. Manet's New Power. Let's start with the summary of the chapter. The headline, Long Live the Bastille Prisoner. Tellson's bank office in Paris was part of a large house whose owner had fled the country wearing his servant's clothes. One night, and while Mr. Lorry was working, he was shocked to see Dr. Manette and Lucy enter his office. They had come to help Charles. The news had come to Paris, to London, that Charles Darnley was arrested on the borders of Paris, and he was sent as a prisoner of the revolution to La Force prison. Mr. Lorry thought that Lucy and Dr. Manette would be in danger, but Dr. Manette believed that his suffering in the Bastille would give him power among the revolutionaries. Mr. Lorry took the doctor alone to show him how mad were the revolutionaries. They looked out of a window and saw a huge grindstone and crowds of people fighting to get close to sharpen their weapons. They were getting ready to kill the prisoners of at La Force. Mr. Lorry asked Dr. Manette to use his power as an ex-Bastille prisoner to make the patriots sympathize with him. Dr. Manette went out, and after a few minutes' talk, the people shouted, Long live the Bastille prisoner, save Evamond from La Force. Then they marched towards La Force. Dr. Manette's messenger. Mr. Lorry couldn't shelter Lucy in the bank because she was considered the wife of the emigrant Evamont. So he found a small house for her to live in with her daughter and Miss Pross. The following day, Dr. Manette sent Defarge to Mr. Lorry with a message that Charles Darnley was safe, but Dr. Manette couldn't leave La Force at that moment. Defarge said that he had another message from Charles to his wife, Lucy, and asked Mr. Lorry to lead him to her. Defarge also asked Mr. Lorry to take Madame Defarge with them, saying that she wanted to see Lucy and her child for their safety. And we have to underline this part. Do you think that the real intention of Madame Defarge was really to see Madame, to see Lucy for her safety or for something else? Yes, of course, she was intended to add her name and her daughter to the list of destruction. She wanted to know her place because once she wanted to kill her, she would know her place and she would kill her easily. Charles' message said, Be brave, darling. I am well, and your father is helping me. Kiss your child for me. Lucy thanked Defarge and his wife for their help. Mrs. Madame Defarge had a very great hatred towards Evermont family, and those who are related to Evermont family, even if they were innocent, like Charles Darnley, his wife, and his daughter. But Madame Defarge was so tough and aggressive with Lucy that the latter felt terrified. In fact, Madame Defarge hadn't come to see Lucy and her daughter for their safety. She had come to knit their names in her list of destruction. That's her real intention to come to see Lucy. She came to knit their names in her list of destruction. Her hatred and desire for revenge on the Evermont family were stretching to Lucy and her daughter, saving Darnley's life. Dr. Manette spent 4 days at La Force. He did his best to convince the People's Court to spare Charles Darnley's life. So it was decided that he should stay in jail for his safety. Dr. Manette begged the People's Court to remain in prison to make sure that Darnley wouldn't be killed by the angry mob like other prisoners. So he was appointed as an inspecting doctor of La Force. He stayed with Charles Darnley for his safety. Those who were tried and found guilty of crimes against the people were carried through the streets in wooden carts to be killed by guillotine. The guillotine was a terrible instrument of death created by the revolution. Even the king was killed by that terrible instrument, as you see a picture of that terrible instrument. Dr. Manette could help Lucy see Charles from a certain place in the road across from the prison. On that, on that same street, a wooden cutter whose business was sawing wood to build guillotines came and told Lucy that he saw Lucy come often to that place. That wooden cutter was himself the road mender on one of the jacks. Do you remember him? Dr. Manette came with happy news to Lucy one day that Charles would be tried the following morning. Now we will see a very short scene about a very impressive scene actually about the meeting of Dr. Manette with the people when he tried to convince them that he is the father-in-law of Charles Darnley. Let's see.
What are you talking about? Who's here? You might not. Lucy? Dr. Manette? I don't understand.
We received your letter.
But I had no thought of you coming here.
We simply couldn't remain in London under the circumstances.
I assure you I've done everything I possibly could.
You, my dear friend, are not Alexander Manette. There is no patriot in Paris who does not know my name, and none who would touch me. I shall use that influence now for whatever it is worth.
There is still some killing in the streets. They've dragged the prisoners from their cells and... Oh, it's all right, my dear, it's all right. Charles is quite safe as yet. And, Doctor, if you have the power you say you have, then make yourself known to these devils for God's sake. Make them take you to La Force.
I shall do so at once.
Father!
Have faith, my dear.
Who is he?
Listen to me! Please, I beg you! Listen to me!
Kill him! Give him the knife!
Look at me! Listen to me! I am Alexander Manette. Do you know the name? For 16 years, a prisoner in the Bastille.
Manette! Manette! You are the physician!
Yes, Dr. Manette. Locked in a solitary cell without sight of one human being For over 16 years, I know the pain. I know the suffering you endure. I am a victim as all of you. I am one of you.
What do you want?
Freedom for my own daughter's dear husband. A terrible mistake. They have taken him to La Force. I beg you to take me there. Help me to set him free.
Take the prisoner at La Force! Prisoner! To La Force! Make way! Make way!
I have a message from Dr. Manette.
Just a moment.
Monsieur Defarge?
The same, monsieur. I bring you a message from Dr. Manette. Believe me, I would only do this for the good doctor. I have another message for Miss Lucy Manette. Can you take me to her?
We'll go at once. I'll just get...
My wife, monsieur. She will join us.
For what purpose?
So that she might recognize the faces better, monsieur. For their own safety.
I see.
You see, for her own safety. But that
It's
not
from Charles.
was the reality.
He says that he... Well... He says that my father has influence.
Let us hope so.
It is enough. I have seen them. We may go.
Please, madame, you will help me to see him if you can.
Your husband is not my business. It is you.
Then, for my sake, please be merciful to my husband.
What does your husband say in the letter? Influence. Influence?
Yes.
Then let that release him.
I implore you, madame. As a woman, as a wife yourself...
Oh, yes. We've all seen our women suffer. And our husbands, and our children. Our children dying in the street of poverty and hunger, thirst and misery. Do you think the troubles of one wife means anything to us now?
As you have seen, the very impressive scene for Dr. Manette with the mops, he tried to say that I am Dr. Manette, the ex-Bastille prisoner, and he managed to take the mops to La Force to save his son-in-law. And we have seen that Madame Defarge came to see Lucy and her daughter, not for their safety, as Monsieur Defarge said. The truth was to knit her name and her daughter in the list of destruction. Let's see the questions and answers. What was Manette? What was the doctor's special power in Paris? Dr. Manette's special power in Paris was that he was an old Bastille prisoner. Every patriot in Paris tried to help him. This privilege helped him to know the news of his son in law, Charles Darnley. Why on earth did you come back to France? Comment. These words were said by Monsieur de Varges to Charles Darnley while he was taking him to La Force. Monsieur de Varges was sad because he knew that Darnley was going to be killed, and this would affect the family of his ex-master, Dr. Manette. He wished that Darnley had never come to France at that time, and that showed that Monsieur de Varges had some kind of sympathy towards um, Charles Darnley, in contrast of his wife, that she had a very severe hatred towards Charles Darnley and his wife and his daughter. Who knows? Many other people have been put in prison unjustly to comment. Monsieur Devar said this to Darnley when he asked him if he would be buried in La Force without trial. Monsieur Devarge reminded him of the many people who were treated the same way before the revolution. He was referring to Dr. Manette, who had been buried in a worse prison for 18 years without a trial or even an accusation. What fearful sight did Mr. Lorry and Dr. Manette see through the window? They saw a large grindstone surrounded by a large crowd of patriots sharpening their knives and swords. They were getting ready to march towards La Force and kill the prisoners. Number five, why wasn't Darnley released after the doctor had spoken to the tribunal? Darnley wasn't released for his own safety. It was much better for him to stay in his cell till the trial because the angry people were killing all the nobles in the streets, all the aristocratic people in the streets. What was the real reasons for Madame de Vange's visit to Lucy? This is a very important question. She wanted to see Lucy and her daughter in order to net their names in the list of destruction, as they were members of the Evermond family. Question number 7. How was Dr. Manette's imprisonment a source of help for Darnley during his difficulty? Dr. Manette was a Bastille prisoner, ex-Bastille prisoner. His long imprisonment and suffering gave him power in Paris during the revolution. He gained the love and sympathy of everyone as a survivor of the terrible prison. For his sake, they spared Darnley's life. He was appointed as a medical officer for La Force. He was able to bring Darnley to a fair trial. Why was it very important that Dr. Manette stay in prison? Why was it very important that Dr. Manette stay in prison? Dr. Manette saw that 1,100 prisoners had been killed by the angry people who attacked the prison without any trial. This shows the state of disorder that troubled the streets of Paris, and it also shows the great danger Darnley and his wife were facing at that time. How was Mr. Lorry loyal to Tellson's Bank? I think we have a question like this before. Mr. Lorry couldn't shelter Lucy and her daughter in the bank because she was the wife of an immigrant. This shows his loyalty to the bank. He didn't want to get the bank involved in any kind of trouble. Charles, the last question, Charles is safe, but I cannot safely leave this place yet. The bearer of this message also has a short note from Charles to his wife. Comment. This was the message sent to Mr. Lorry by Dr. Manette through Mr. Devarge. Dr. Manette was able to save Darnay's life, but he wasn't able to leave the prison. He stayed near Charles to save him from the angry mob. He asked Mr. Lorry to let Monsieur Devarge see Lucy because he had a message for her from Charles. Thank you very much. This is the end of our chapter. Uh, and this is the end of our session today. I wish you have understood the incidents and the events in that chapter. I wish you have enjoyed the impressive scene of Dr. Manet with the revolutionaries. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me. Till we meet again, I wish you the best of luck. Mr. Mahmoud was with you. Thank you.